So we're back with another video on reading Fazbear Fright stories and finding hidden details you may not have noticed, as well as coming up with theories based on the information we get within the story. But in this episode of the series, we're going to be doing something a bit different. See, usually in the series I read Fazbear Fright stories that I haven't actually read before, but in this one I'm going to reread a story that I have read before. I mentioned in my last video that I'd be rereading Friendly Face, and the reason I wanted to was because I already had a theory in mind that I would want to talk about in the video. But then I realized that there's another Fazbear Fright story that goes into the same topic, The Real Jake. So, what are we doing now? Well, I'm rereading both stories, but I'm going to split it up into two separate videos. So I'm going to be going through all the details I found in each story, and at the end of each video we're going to talk about the theory that I have for these stories. These theories inspire different parts of the same theory, and that's why I'm going to be talking about them separately. This first video will be about The Real Jake, and the next one will be on Friendly Face. After these two videos, the next video in the series will go back to the original way where I read a story I haven't read before, and that one will be on 1:35 AM. But once I'm finished reading all the stories I haven't read yet, let me know if I should go back and reread some of the other stories as well as see if there's anything I missed. But anyway, I hope you all enjoy, and let's get started. Number 1. I think most people believe Jake is a parallel to the bite victim, and I find it interesting that Jake is 9 years old. This could be telling us how old the bite victim is. I think between ages 7 and 10 fits his actions and design pretty well, but I think he would probably be 9 just like Jake. Number 2. Across the street from Jake's house there are two twins living there. What if this could be a reference to Charlotte and Sammy? Because in the novel trilogy, they are twins. It's unclear if Sammy even exists in the game, but he's very clearly not important if he is in the games. But the fact that there's twins across the street from a character who seems to be a bite victim parallel seems suspicious when you consider that the bite victim and Charlotte are friends, and William and Henry are partners, so it would make sense for them to live close to each other. Number 3. Another interesting thing about Jake is that his mom is dead and his father is alive. Well, at first, which seems to be the case for the bite victim. I also didn't want to mention it as a separate point because everyone knows this by now, but it's still interesting that Jake's dad is named Evan and has a brother named Mike, and Evan also dies. While Evan is a William Afton parallel, he is also a bite victim parallel, and it's questionable whether this story means the bite victim's name is Evan or not. Personally, I'm mixed on it. I see way too many people just flat out referring to the bite victim as Evan and treating it like it's a fact that it's his name, but really it's not. While it's certainly possible, I don't think the logbook code would be enough to convince me. The Real Jake does make me think it's definitely possible though. I just always refer to the bite victim as just the bite victim because his name is not confirmed and likely won't be for a long time, if ever. Number 4. I think this stuff is also obvious, but I still want to point it out to strengthen the point of Jake being a bite victim parallel. And there's more details later on that I'll talk about which also support that. I don't think it's a coincidence that the bite victim and Jake both die in a hospital, or hospital-equipped bedroom in Jake's case, and they both die from injuries to the head. The bite victim was obviously bitten by Fredbear, and Jake had a brain tumor. Number 5. Jake also used to have a teddy bear. When he was 6, he was deemed by himself as too old for it, but at this point he regrets giving it up. I think this could be another connection between the bite victim and Jake, as the bite victim obviously has the Fredbear plushie, which we will talk about later. Number 6. During Jake's first conversation with Simon in this story, Simon tells him that baseball games used to be played in cornfields, which seems inconvenient because it would be hard to find the ball, so it would be like playing baseball and hide and seek at the same time. This immediately got me thinking of FNAF VR Corn Maze, since in Corn Maze, you were trying to find stuff, namely the keys, which are difficult to find, and you have to hide from Grim Foxy, like hide and seek. Could be nothing, but I felt it was a connection worth mentioning. Number 7. This is the detail I've mentioned in some of my older videos, but I just wanted to point it out here again. Jake lives in a type of house called a bungalow, which is the same kind of house as the FNAF 4 house that we see in Midnight Motorist and the FNAF 4 menu screen. Number 8. At a certain point in the story, Jake's friend Brandon comes to his house and he tries to sneak out through the window. When he gets caught by Margie, she is upset with him. Though there are some differences, this really reminds me of Midnight Motorist. The bite victim breaks out of his house through the window, and when William catches him, he locks him in the room, angry. While Margie is more worried than angry, and the animatronic out the window is probably more malicious rather than peaceful, it is still worth mentioning, and it definitely still seems like a connection. Number 9. When Jake and Brandon sneak out, Brandon suggests that they go to the arcade. Jake is skeptical, but Brandon suggests that if he's too weak, they could just do the racing games that you sit down for. This could be a small tidbit meant to drive us, no pun intended, closer to the connection between this scene and Midnight Motorist, since the actual Midnight Motorist arcade game in FNAF 6 is a racing game. Number 10. Something I always wondered, and still wonder, is if Jake is able to stand up and climb out his window, why doesn't he try to go and open the cabinet door to find Simon? My guess is that he was just distracted by his friend and that the thought didn't really cross his mind, but it still is a bit weird. Number 11. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but whenever there's even a mention of the color purple in a Fazbear Fright story, I just go berserk. I should probably go see a psychiatrist about that. When Simon and Jake talk about the adventure to the arcade, Simon says that he had a slushie that turned his tongue purple. That isn't groundbreaking on its own, but Jake says that he also did, and that his tongue also turned purple. And then they both said purple power. I really don't know if this means anything, it's just a little bit strange and wanted to mention it. Number 12. As we probably all know at this point, every time Jake tells Simon about what the real Jake did today, Simon always responds saying that he did the same thing that same day. This is interesting because it ties Simon to the Fredbear plush, because it seems like a reference to the Fredbear plushie going everywhere the bite victim goes. Number 13. The Simon doll has drawn-on features, including the entirety of its mouth and eyes. It took me reading the book again to realize it, but there's something in Security Breach that has a drawn-on mouth and eyes as well. Something that when it was first revealed, people thought it might be the Stitch Wraith. The Nightmare Staff Bots. And this is incredibly interesting to me because it ties into something that happens towards the end of the story as well. Number 14. Near the end of the story, Margie hears whispering coming from Jake's bedroom right before he dies. Whoever is whispering here is likely inside the Simon doll at this point, because this scene parallels the post-Night 6 minigame of FNAF 4. And in the 7th epilogue, Larson hears whispering from his evidence bag, and inside is the puppet mask. Lefty also whispers in their voice lines, and Lefty is the puppet. That means the puppet is the Simon doll at the end of the real Jake. Like I said, the Simon doll having drawn-on features connects to the Nightmare Staff Bots. If the puppet is the Simon doll here, and the Stitch Wraith who has the face of the Simon doll has drawn-on features like the Staff Bots, could that further hint that at the puppet being inside the Nightmare Staff Bots? It's something I talked about in a previous theory. I think the puppet is powering the circuit boards that are in the Nightmare Staff Bots. Puppet doesn't control them, but she is a part of them. Not only that, but the Stitch Wraith has a FNAF 2 endoskeleton. In the Mangle vent repair from FNAF VR, there is an Easter egg where a FNAF 2 endoskeleton can appear below you. However, in the Mangle vent repair room that we can find in the Security Breach map, the FNAF 2 endoskeleton is replaced by a staff bot. The staff bot represents the FNAF 2 endoskeleton, and the Stitch Wraith, who has a FNAF 2 endoskeleton, represents the staff bots. All this, to me, is not a coincidence. Number 15. Like I just explained, the whispers outside Jake's door are from the puppet. However, there is another character in the series that also makes these types of whispering sounds. Shadow Bonnie in FNAF AR. This, among other things, implies that Shadow Bonnie could be made from Charlotte's agony. Number 16. When Margie goes to investigate the whispers from Jake's room, she also hears a dog barking from outside. This could be a reference to the sound effect of a dog barking outside in FNAF 4. Number 17. When Jake dies, no one notices the cabinet where the Simon doll is open. So, where did the doll go? We know Jake ends up possessing it, which results in him being a part of the Stitch Wraith, but where did it go? It is a doll, but is it able to move around, and would it be able to open the cabinet door, if it even could move around? My idea is that maybe Jake got up and opened the cabinet door himself, which took the last bit of strength he had, and that's why he died when he did. And when he died, he possessed the doll, and with the door open, the doll is able to leave. And those are all the details I was able to find in the real Jake. Now let's talk about how this story could connect to the Fredbear plush. In this story, Jake seems to be a bite victim parallel, as I said before, and there is a doll that talks to him, which is most definitely a parallel to the Fredbear plushie. But the Simon doll is actually Jake's father talking to him through the doll. This could imply that the Fredbear plushie in FNAF 4 is actually William keeping an eye on the bite victim through the plushie. As we see in Sister Location, William does use the plushie to keep an eye on the bite victim, so it would make sense if he spoke through it as well. FNAF World also supports this. Fredbear guides you through the game, but he is being controlled by a master manipulator who ends up being Scott. But obviously Scott isn't canon, and it's likely that FNAF World's gameplay isn't either. So this would rather be a parallel. And what master manipulator do we know that is fully 100% canon? William Afton. And then Fredbear becomes Glitchbear, who is absolutely 100% factually the same entity as the Fredbear plushie from FNAF 4's final minigame. This implies that the identity of the Fredbear plushie is a manipulator for most of the minigames, but is then taken over by another spirit in the final minigame, the spirit that wants nothing more than to save the children's souls and set up Happiest Day. But there are a few arguments some people have against William being the plushie. 1. The plushie seems to teleport. 2. We see William in one of the minigames. 3. William doesn't care about his kids. And 4. Merch for the Fred plush calls it the possessed Fredbear plushie. As for the first argument, it's pretty easily explained away. The plushie does not teleport. The simple fact is that there are multiple of them set up in Afton's neighborhood, as heavily implied in Sissa location. The fact that we see William in one of the minigames doesn't mean anything, simply due to the fact that the plush bear doesn't speak at all when William is on screen. While William doesn't really care about his kids, he also doesn't want them to die. After all, he tries to keep Elizabeth away from Circus Baby. He also watches over the bite victim with the Fredbear plushie, regardless of whether he's the plushie or not. And the fourth is explained by the fact that in the final minigame of FNAF 4, the text color of the plush is different, implying that it is a different entity. But who is that entity? Well, that's gonna have to wait for the next video on Friendly Face. But anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!